Welcome to Rod's Uncensored show. I have a special guest, Arthur herself, also my big sister, NurJehan Al-Haqq. How you doing today?
Hey, brother, I am doing well. That sounds fun.
Um, so, how did you come up, before you go to a background about yourself, how did you come up with your book and what inspired you to come out with a book? Because it's a lot of work to write a book down.
Oh man, it really is. So, I actually started on it in 2016 because I just started writing. Right, I had a book writing coach, and I was already in another book, a collaboration book with other women that were survivors. The book is called "Wounded Women Warriors Surviving Storms of Life," and it was only really like 7 pages, right? So it wasn't my full story, but it
Mhm.
was enough to get people interested in what's going on with me. So after I had my story in that collaboration book, I wanted to write a full story. So my full background, everything that happened, and then from that day up until my recent years, which was up until age 40.
Mhm.
So that was in 2017 when I actually finished it. So we're looking at So it was 6 years that I had been sitting on it. I finished it, but then I was waiting for the right publisher company and the right price, before I actually went ahead and got it published, which I did that this year on January 23rd.
So, what was the process of you finding a publisher, and is some you look just Googled it how to find a publisher, or you already had some in mind?
Well, I did Google some, and I actually wanted to have a Christian publisher. I didn't want to just have any publisher. So I had looked at a couple of them, and then the ones that I was looking at, the price that they were asking for was too much. I didn't have the money at the time, but they were really trying to kind of force me to use them because they said, well, you want people that have quality and you want to be able to get your book out to the masses, like Barnes and Nobles and what's those other places. They were dropping big names, that people know about. And
Mm-hmm.
so at that time, actually, I had a different title for my book. And I had the manuscript already, but it was the title. I didn't have a subtitle at the time either, but I had a different title. So at the time that I was looking at, it was Ex Libris, and it was another Christian company. I can't remember the name though. But needless to say, I did not use them. So at the time, my title was Broken but Not Destroyed,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then through the time of me waiting to find the right publisher, which is through Kingdom Anthologies with our CEO and founder of KBM Ministry, that stands for Kingdom Branding and Marketing Ministry. So Willie Tubbs, he's written 4 books. He's a book writing coach, a reset coach, and he's the one that I reached out to about my book when we met about 3 years ago. There's another organization I was with, and he was a guest speaker on their Bible study. And so he had just got finished writing his book, Reset Your Economy, um, How to Live Your Dream Through the Economy of God in Spite of the Economy of Man. And it was around the time, right, when the pandemic hit. So, he was letting everybody get a copy of his book, and then we weren't able to get a copy of it. So he just gave everybody their money back and gave us the PDF. So I was able to read it from there. But then, the quality that he had and everything. And when I had told him my story, he was like, we called each other king and queen. He's like, Queen, you need to write a book. I was like, I already did.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, really? I said, yeah, I'm just waiting for the right publisher. So I said, you want to read it? He's like, yeah. So I sent him my manuscript, and it blew him away. He was just like, man, that was so powerful. He made his daughters read it. He actually
Mm.
read it twice.
Mm.
And his daughter was like, man, Dad, she went through a lot. They were really, really intrigued about my story, and it really blessed them. So, um,
So, where you said it
I
starts
hope
from all the way from the beginning of
Mhm.
which, as a child, all the way to your woman. to adult woman? How far does the book go?
Yeah. So it's 9 chapters,
Hmm.
and it starts from age 12 until
Okay.
40.
Okay.
I talk about, like, where I'm from, my siblings and all that stuff, having different dads and all that stuff. And then where we originally started out
Hmm.
in, born in Detroit. Then we had to move because of being military, moved to Alabama, then Germany, then Alabama, then Alaska. And I spent most of my years in Alaska. So my book is really about me growing up in Alaska. That's really where I was, because I really don't remember that much of my childhood, but I remember more of my teenage years. So
Okay.
it's from Alaska all the way up until when I left Alaska, moved to Tennessee, you know, um, and then got, almost lost my life, had to rehabilitate myself and, learn how to walk again and all that stuff. And of course, not having my son in my life, but now we have our relationship back. And so a lot of that, and then me starting going back to school, working, and then getting my degree. Took me 7 years to get my degree for psychology. Talked about that, and then actually how all that I went through to find out my purpose.
Mm. So so you're pretty much saying in so many words you don't think you would find your purpose if that all that didn't transpire.
I would say I probably wouldn't have found it as soon,
Okay.
because I really found my purpose through other people asking me to continue to share my story. Because in other words, I really, when I went to school for psychology, I went to school for psychology so I can be a counselor.
Hmm.
That's what I wanted to do, right? Because I like to help people, and that was my goal for going to school for psychology. Plus, I like to get in people's head. That's a sidebar. But God changed it for me, right? Because as soon as I started going public with my story, people were like, "Don't stop sharing it." And then so instead of me counseling people, He changed it for me to be a speaker. And I can still counsel people, but I'm in a specific area now of just counseling people. Now it's in the domestic violence area. So I became an advocate for domestic violence. So that's my calling.
But I just feel like it's hard for especially women to know, what I mean, they're in domestic violence situations because they see so much of it. They think it's normalized. What I mean? It's normalized, and they don't take it
Mhm.
as serious till it's too late. So how do you speak to them to tell them, what I mean? Don't take it. Don't let this happen to you. Get help and remove yourself from the situation. What would be some tips for you to tell women about that? Don't get too comfortable with being in that
Yeah.
situation.
It's interesting you said that, because as a matter of fact, when I was with my son's father, a lot of stuff that he was doing and a lot of stuff he was saying was kind of subtle. So I didn't really know that I was in an unhealthy relationship, because, like you just said, it's normal. It feels normal, right? I was 18 when I was with him. He was 20. He's 2 years older than me, but he was a player. I was a player. I wasn't trying to be in no serious relationship, and it was just a lot of the stuff he said was behind the closed doors, and he treat me differently in front of other people. And because I was attractive, he wouldn't want me to be around any other men. So he was very, possessive, and wanted to control me. And at first I thought this was like, wow, he really cares about me. He wants to keep me to himself. And it even got to the point where he gave me a certain code when I would, because I had a pager at that time. I don't know if y'all know about pagers and the
Hmm.
two-way pagers and all that stuff. Now we got cell phones, but at that time, back in the 90s, I had a pager. So he gave me a special code, which was 20. That was his age. So if he texts me, not text me, but if he paged me from a number and it has 20 at the end, I know that's him. This is like his way of keeping tabs on me,
Hmm.
right? Hold on, let me mute this because I don't like that phone to be ringing. Oh. It rings 4 times. Yeah. So that's what he would do. He was keeping tabs on me, want to know where I was at. I was working and I was in school, But a lot he would call me stupid and call me a hoe and all that stuff. I mean, just verbal abuse. It was mostly verbal with him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then it started getting physical. It wasn't really harsh, just more pushing and stuff like that. I mean, he pulled a gun on me twice. So after that, it was more like, okay, he's crazy. So he didn't pull the trigger, but maybe next time he will. And since he never did pull the trigger, I had to just do whatever it was that he said he wanted me to do. So to answer your question, it's important to look for the signs because I didn't know the signs. And abuse comes in so many different ways. I was just looking at the PowerPoint that I did. And there's physical abuse, there's emotional abuse, there's mental abuse, there's sexual abuse, there's financial abuse, which you call it financial and economic, right? There's even, they added Christian. I'm like, what? Or either spiritual abuse, because most people, churches will tell you to stay with them, but
Yeah, that's definitely real,
yeah.
and I hate to say it though, but especially in the church, it's become so much like a cult. You know what I mean? Like a cult, like, and you know what I mean. People being blind about they get so focused on the pastor than God. They put the
Mm-hmm.
pastor onto God levels. So
Wow.
it's crazy that it's getting bad like that. But yeah, I'm seeing it now. You look at these reality TV shows, they're
Mm-hmm.
popularized domestic violence in like a good light. You see
Mm.
Krishan Rock and Blueface punching each other to death. Like, you know what I mean? But
Wow.
it's getting crazy where, you know what I mean, you really gotta look, you know what I mean, after your neighbors, kids and daughters, you know what I mean, try to put them on game and whoever, you know what I mean, can reach and read your book, need to read it because it's serious. This domestic violence can become fatal and it can change your life for forever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's so true. And the fact that it is so prevalent, especially in the pandemic. I mean, when the pandemic hit, domestic violence really just skyrocketed. It just really got worse.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing so many different cases about it and stuff. I mean, I even stopped watching TV, because of all this stuff that's going on. But as long as I'm able to, help as many people as I can to learn the signs and to really find their self. See, the thing about it, another reason why most people stay with their partner is because they lose themselves. When you're with somebody and you try to be that, you try to be for them who they want you to be. So you lose your identity. If you look at a lot of people that have been, survivors of domestic violence, that's one thing they will say is that they have low self-esteem. Because when you hear these words so many times, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy and you just start to believe it. So until you actually find yourself, you're
Mm-hmm.
just going to accept whatever it is that they tell you. And it's more like, well, nobody else wants me, so I'll stay with them. I'll keep the abuse as long as they, I got somebody. Some people just want to be with somebody that they will just settle. But that's not what God wants. God wants the best for his children. So if we know that this is not who God sent me to be with, there's somebody better out there for me, I have to find love within myself first before I can even love anybody else. And that's
Yeah.
what I needed to do. So really, I grew up as a Muslim. My name is NurJehan Al-Haqq, which stands for Light of the World, Servant of the True in Arabic. And in 96, when I turned 20, that's when I gave my life to the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have been living for Christ ever since, but even though I had Christ in me, there was still some things in my life that I wasn't ready to give up yet, you know. And so fornication was one of them, and a lot of other stuff. I used to drink a lot, but I did stop drinking. That's one thing I did stop doing, and cursing. I stopped all of that, but the other stuff, the physical stuff, I was not ready to give up yet. So when I finally had to surrender to God, when I almost lost my life, that's when I really found who I really was. And I saw that I was not living for me. I was living for him. But then I had to change it from not just living for me, but to live for my son. Because at the time he was 3 years old when this happened, when we ended up being in that physical altercation. And my son's father, so y'all know, ended up breaking my neck. So this
So,
happened
so
October 1997.
what was your thoughts when he was laying there?
When I was laying there, I was telling him I need help. I need to get get some help. But he wanted to try to nurse me back to health himself. And he
Right there,
made things worse.
did you think right there? Did you think he was gonna die?
I thought I had already died. Because the way that it happened, we were in an argument, the way that he was disciplining my son. And so I got in his face and I was like, what are you doing? And I said, what are you doing to my child? He started poking his finger, like I told you about, getting in my face and trying to tell me how to raise my son. I'm like, well, it looks like you're abusing him. So I don't, you're accusing me of abusing him and all that stuff. I said, I don't know what you're doing when I'm not here, but that's what it looks like right now. So you're violating my space right now, and you're putting your finger in my face like this. So I got it out of my face and I shoved him, and we just kind of like in a wrestling move, and that's how we ended up. We slipped on a blanket, and that's when he started choking me. So when he was choking me, I was like, I'm sorry. He's like, I told you not to hit me and all this stuff, and I'm like, I'm sorry for hitting you. But instead of him letting go, he did the ultimate betrayal, and he got tighter and tighter with his chokehold until he snapped it. And I heard it, I heard it like when you crumble potato chips.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it sounded like. And then my lights were out. I was just like, did I just come here and die? I don't know how long I was passed out, but I know he woke me up. He was like, Nur, wake up, And then I was looking around like, I'm still here? What happened? Next thing you know, I couldn't feel my legs.
So how long did that take to recover and get to a semi good walk? How long did it take you to recover from a broken neck?
Okay, so once we got into the hospital, I had to get surgery immediately. Well, the next day. So I had to wear a halo for 6 weeks.
With the screws in it, right?
Right. Yeah, the screws in it and the big, all the entrapment all the way onto my chest. I had to stay stiff for 6 weeks. I could not turn my head left or right. So I have good peripheral vision because I could only see a person if you're standing right in front of me. Otherwise, I had to look to the side like that because I could not move it. So for 6 weeks, I had to wear a halo. And I was also paralyzed from the chest down. So I had to learn I wasn't able to learn how to walk just yet until I got out of rehab. But I had to learn how to push myself in the wheelchair. I had to learn everything all over again to be independent with my left hand because I was actually born right-handed. But then when they went into the side of my body, they took a piece of bone from my hip to mend my neck back together. But they went in the left side of my body, so it affected the right side. So that's why people say I'm kind of like a stroke patient, because usually when you have a spinal cord injury, it's the whole part of your body that's going to be affected, right? But it's more like one side of mine. So I used to be right-handed, but then I lost the use of my right hand because I have atrophy with my right hand. I can't grip. I can't bend, these fingers stay bent. So it's hard for me to really do much with this hand. So anyway, I was in rehab for about 2 months because this happened October 1997.
And all this surgery happened at Fairbanks University?
No, this was not. No, I was in Tennessee when this happened.
Okay.
I moved to Clarksville to be with him.
Mm-hmm.
So when I left Alaska, that's why I left Alaska. After after I had my son and he found out, he was his and all that stuff, then he wanted to, he was being PCS because he was in the Army. He got PCS to Fort Campbell. And so then he wanted to finally be a family, I guess. So it didn't happen right away. Like I said, my son was a year old at the time, but then he was 3 when this happened. So I had been back and forth to Clarksville. Then I was staying with my other sister, Amanda, in Knoxville, and then I moved to Nashville with Karima. So that's really when it happened. He had tricked me into giving him custody, and he came to get his son. And so he was getting ready to go to go to officer school for like 30 days. So I just wanted to see him one more time before he went, to officer school. So anyway, this all happened on Fort Campbell. It happened in the quarters or on Fort Campbell base with with what happened. But I was actually transferred to Nashville because when he dropped me off at the hospital, it was the Clarksville Memorial Hospital. But because of how strenuous my injury was, they needed more. I needed more medical attention than they could give me at the Clarksville Hospital. So this was actually in Nashville that I had my surgery on the 21st, and then rehab for 2 months at Vanderbilt Stallworth. So I got discharged in December. And then I started going to, I had physical therapy and occupational therapy at the house. And then I went to physical therapy in Murfreesboro. So mommy, she left Alaska and she came here to help take care of me. And so they told me if I was to walk again, it would be like a year to a year and a half, right? So I said, "Oh, you said if? Okay." So I took that if and I ran with it. And by the time my birthday, which is on August 9th, at that time I was actually going to a church called, um, I can't remember the name of the church right now, but I had just got saved and I was starting to go, go to disciple class and all this stuff. And I just got baptized and everything. And so, First Missionary Baptist Church of South Inglewood. That's what it was. And so one day we wanted to surprise them. So I asked my mom if I can go there. And at the time I was using my walker. They had known about what happened to me. And some of them came to visit me in the hospital. And one day we sat in the back. They didn't know I was there. And I just walked up to the altar in my walker. And I just surprised the whole congregation. And I said, yeah, they told me it'll be a year and a half to it if I walk, but no, it wasn't. It wasn't even that long because I learned through therapy, how to walk again and stuff. Even though I didn't get full return because, like I said, the right side of my body was affected. So I'm not able to, do like this with my ankle on my right foot. So I have to use one of those splints in my foot to elevate my ankle. And so I walk with a limp, and I'm back on my walker. Believe it or not, I had actually graduated from the walker to the quad cane, but then I started falling again, so I'm back on my walker. But it took me, I would say, 9 months, to start walking again. And then I was back independent doing stuff, and I beat the odds of what the doctors had told me because I said, well, I'm going to believe the report of the Lord, not going to believe the doctors, what they told me. If it left it up to them, they already had said, well, I was a complete and incomplete quadriplegic. The difference is that when you're complete, it's a complete break and there's no room for return. But because I was an incomplete, it was a fracture, C6 and C7 to the vertebrae. Mm-hmm. Since it was incomplete, that means there was room for return. That's why I was able to get some return back. A lot of people don't realize that when a person has a spinal cord injury, you lose your lower extremities as well. Being able to urinate and being able to have a bowel movement on your own. So if you ask anybody that has that's in a wheelchair or disabled and they don't have that ability, you ask them, would you rather be able to walk or have a bowel movement? And most of them say they would rather have a bowel movement. Because when you're not able to have your own bowel movement, that's really hard to come by. So you have to use digital stimulation and pull your bowels out. But those are things that people don't know that we suffer from, as a spinal cord injury patient. So yeah, I can learn how to not walk, because of wheelchairs, but when you're not able to use the bathroom yourself, that's hard.
Yeah, it's definitely hard. Where before we get out of here, how can they reach you and get your book? What websites is your book on? How can they get it?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so right now it is on Amazon. It's called Broken Vessel: How I Became God's Masterpiece. I have two versions because one is in color and one is in black and white. So the 1997 is the one that's in color, and the one for $14.99 is the black and white book. So you can just go type in NurJehan Al-Haqq Broken Vessel and it'll pull up. I will be getting my website together, where I'll be actually able to sell them on my website also. But right now I'm in the middle of revising it because I want to have not autographs, but reviews. So people have been reading the book or reading a chapter out of the book and they're writing a review about the chapter. So what I'm doing is I'm making a gratitude page, thanking those people that wrote the review and have their name on it. So that's
So,
why.
have you thought about also doing a church tour type thing with your book
A
locally?
church tour?
Yeah,
No.
I'm
What's
just,
that?
back in the day, you used to have revivals and people bring their books and
Mm-hmm.
you talk about the book. Yeah, something like that.
No, have not thought about that yet.
I was just wondering. Um, but you said it's on Amazon and
Yeah.
you trying to set up a website for it. How can it reach out to you on social media?
Okay, on social media, my name, NurJehan Al-Haqq for Facebook. I'm also on LinkedIn, NurJehan Al-Haqq. I'm on Instagram, I am the light 7. I also have email if somebody wants to email me, if they want me to, be a speaker at their event. And that is speakouttome@gmail.com. And that's the number 2. So it's speakouttome@gmail.com. Now my website is NurJehanAlHaqq.com. It's just nothing on it right now, but that's what it would be. If anybody wants to know more information and also, like I said, get my book later once I get the revised version. I'll probably have it still on Amazon, but I also want to have it on my own website too.
Okay, this has been another episode of Ron's Uncensored Show. I had NurJehan Al-Haqq, aka my big sis, on here, and I appreciate you coming on, and hopefully you have a good day for the rest of your day.
Well, thank you for having me, little brother. You're not little no more.
No, I ain't definitely little no more. I ain't rot no more, like Nigel used to call me rot.
Rot. I know, rot.
But all right, we're about to get out of here and see y'all later.
All right.